What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? It's your boy Goblin, and today we're coming in with a banger of a video. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about a very recent accidental shroom trip. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Drop a like if you do. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and also make sure you head over to my Instagram at @theGBLN and follow me today. Listen, we're going to be doing a lot of fun stuff on there. We're going to be going live at the Crackhead Olympics again very soon, so make sure you head over there and hit me with the follow. Thank you guys in advance for that, and without further ado, let's dive right into the video. So, before we actually get into the story segment of this, I want to give more so a little background information here. So, recently, as of, a couple days ago, actually, I was in LA for a fairly big trip. I was filming a lot of podcast stuff. I went to the Secret Sesh event for those of you guys who saw me there. And, every time I go out to LA, I've kind of gotten into the habit of doing shrooms while I'm out there. Everyone out there likes taking shrooms for some reason. Here in Illinois, not a lot of my friends do it. So, it's a habit of mine that has kind of grown lately. Most of you guys who watch my channel know me as a guy who likes to taking acid a lot, but recently things have kind of flipped, where I haven't actually tripped on acid for almost 6 months now. Meanwhile, I've been doing shrooms. I mean, I'm microdosed right now, if I'm being honest, so either way, I just wanted to give a little background information and, let you guys know that there's probably a lot more shroom content coming soon. I mean, I've been getting a little wild with it. So, without further ado, let's dive into the story. So this happened last week. Now, if I'm being totally honest, I don't really know which day of the week this happened, because I was fucked up like every day, whether I was tripping, whether I was stoned out of my mind, I don't really know, okay? But this happened last week while I was in LA, and on this fateful day, I had some shit to do. I had a bit of a schedule ahead of me. It was just a couple days prior to the Secret Sesh event. I was kind of doing my stuff, getting prepared for the event. And, for those of you guys who didn't maybe hear about the event or see me there, it's basically a giant, weed sesh kind of event. But I also did a bit of a meetup there. So some of you guys watching this video might have bumped into me at this event. But I had a lot of prep to do. I had to get all my merch together for the event. I had, a grinder drop that we were doing for the event. So the guy who makes my grinders, you guys have probably seen those as well. Him and I are good friends, and his name is Attila. And on this fateful night, I had to go over to Attila's warehouse to sort out some stuff that I'd gotten shipped over. He was kind enough to let me get my merch shipped out for the event to his warehouse. So we decided to link up, get faded, and check out, do some inventory. So I get an Uber over to his warehouse from my Airbnb, and it's maybe, it's like a 45-minute Uber. It's a bit of a mission, honestly. He is not quite in LA. He's a bit on the outskirts, so it's a decent little ride, and with LA traffic, it makes it terrible every time, but I eventually make it over to his warehouse. And once I get there, we're chilling out, and he suggests that we get a little bit of shrooms. Now, I didn't know anybody out there who could serve me some, but he told me he's got me covered. He was telling me about how he met a delivery driver for a nearby dispensary, and they kind of hit it off, and the guy told him that he would serve him shrooms. He had never met this guy before, and I obviously had never met the guy either, so I told him, I was like, yo, tell him to pull up with some shit. Let's get it. So he had these chocolate bars, and he pulled up maybe 30 minutes after I got there. I mean, very quick. We hadn't even done inventory yet. We were just like, fuck it, let's take some shrooms first, and then go do the work part. So we're sitting at his warehouse, taking some dabs, waiting for a shroom guy to pull up. And eventually, dude pulls up. He skirts on up in his little pickup truck, and, it's him and his girlfriend or whoever he was riding with, and we grab ourselves, initially, we'd grabbed an ounce of some penis envy. No chocolates yet, just like straight up, just an ounce of shrooms, but he had given us these samples of these chocolate bars that he made. So we brought him inside, and, once we had kind of gotten settled a little bit, I mentioned to Attila, I was like, hey, ask him how much he charges for the chocolates, because, I mean, now that I've seen the guy's legit, I would like some to maybe bring home, and he's like, sure, no problem, I got you. So he hits the guy up, the guy hits us back, and he says that the chocolates are going to cost $40. So I'm like, yo, I'll get 3 chocolate bars. That's enough for me to have for the week, enough for me to bring home, maybe have a bar at home as well. Perfect. $120, bang. I'm having a hoot, okay? It's all coming together. So I tell Attila to hit up a shroom guy and tell him to come back with some chocolates, which he does. Maybe 45 minutes go by, and he pulls back up again. Mind you, we hadn't done any fucking work yet. We had not done any inventorying. We did not do any prep whatsoever, and there was a fair bit to be done. It's not like some shit where we could just put it aside. Like, we had boxes to sort through, and organize stuff and then repackage. It was a bit of a headache, but either way, we're sitting there and we're waiting for a shroom guy to pull back up. And eventually he does. He brings me the 3 chocolate bars, but he also brings this like crazy sample goodie bag. I don't know what it is, but shroom plugs are very nice, okay? I've only met a few of them because when I was younger, I never really did shrooms like that, But every time I go out to LA, whenever I end up having to pick up some shrooms, it just seems like they're always the nicest people. This guy pulls up and oh my God, he has a gift bag. I'm not talking like, oh, a little sample. Dude, this guy gave us a little sample of everything he makes, dude. He has these like THC juices. He gave us 2 bags of them, one for each of us. He gave us samples of like some cupcakes, some cookies. I mean, like, just loaded the fuck up. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, dude, this guy, we're going to become really tight if he keeps coming through like this, So I am very satisfied. I'm like, yo, this is wonderful. I love to see this. Thank you, my guy. And, the most important part of that delivery was the chocolate bar. So we get back inside the warehouse and we're chilling out. And we take a little bit of the chocolate bars. We took like maybe a piece just to try how they tasted. And they were really, really good. But we opted not to take much more that night. This night was more of a microdose kind of evening. We each ate maybe 2 cubes off the chocolate bar. I didn't accidentally trip until the following day. You see, after we, got done with our work, I got my Uber and I took my chocolates and I went back to my Airbnb. And the next day was a very big day. I mean, we had a dinner planned with like fucking 10 of us there, It was maybe a day or 2 before the event, still before the event, but we're planning stuff out together. And I'm going to this dinner later in the day and it's got hella people. Eric's going, Eric Kahn, as you guys know him. Attila's gonna be there. Of course, I'm going. We've got the Pine Park homies going. We got the Terp Mansion guys going. So it's going to be a very fun evening. And granted, don't think of this like some, business dinner. We're all just getting faded and going to grab a bite to eat. But at the same time, it's like I'm going out. I wanted to be functional. But also, I wanted to get a little microdose in. I had felt that, the dosage I'd taken the day before might have been a little too light, I didn't really feel that much, so I decided to up the ante. It was maybe like 3 or 4 o'clock, and our dinner was scheduled for 8:30 that night. And I went and opened the freezer, and I was alone at the Airbnb. It was just me and Ashley, right? Just us two. I go over to the freezer and I bust out these chocolate bars, and he had 3 different flavors of them that he gave me. One of them was like a cookies and cream, I think. One of them was just a standard chocolate, and I say I think because one I never got to try because I accidentally left these in the freezer of the Airbnb. So I hope the cleaning crew enjoyed, or whoever found them. I hope they enjoyed. But either way, I ended up pulling out like this mint chocolate chip one that looked really, really good. And these were fairly sizable bars. He had told me that it was an 1/8 in each bar. So I'm looking at this thing and I'm like, well, there's a fair amount of pieces here. These things are pretty big. So I think like 4 or 5 pieces will get me to a chill, kind of relaxed dose. Now, this is where I made my first mistake, okay? 4 or 5 pieces of these chocolates, as I had later learned, was enough to send me to fucking Jupiter. And I'm sitting there at the Airbnb and I had just downed these 4 or 5 pieces. Mind you, we are still like 4 hours out of dinner, maybe more closer to 3 at this point, 3-4 hours out of dinner. It's like 4 o'clock at this point. I had just downed my chocolates. I'm sitting there and I'm watching Call of Duty Champs, right? I mean, it is getting eventful. Optics playing, FaZe is playing, all the teams are playing. I'm watching COD Champs, right? At the Airbnb, bored, just chilling out, vibing. And all of a sudden, maybe 45 minutes later, I start feeling a little loose. Not necessarily necessarily full-on tripping, like the visuals are there, but, you know, there's a certain feeling that Shrooms gives you that's hard to describe, but it's almost like you just feel loose, you know? You start to look around a little bit. You lift your limbs up a little bit. You feel it inside of you. I always say that when you take acid and you start coming up, it's like hot chocolate is pumping through your veins. You know, you really feel a sense of euphoria, but with Shrooms, it's very different. It's not quite like that. There is still euphoria involved for sure, don't get me wrong, but, you know, I feel like I don't feel it as much physically as I do mentally when it comes to Shrooms. Shrooms are really just a full-on mental experience, whereas when I take acid, sometimes I get a really intense body euphoria. That just doesn't happen to me very much with Shrooms, but either way, I'm starting to feel really loose, and I'm realizing that as I'm watching the TV, things are just moving a little bit. You know, one thing that I've learned lately is shroom visuals in moderation are super chill. For the longest time prior to, you know, before the past year, I would say, I'd only done shrooms once or twice, and, you know, I had taken really stupid doses because I was uninformed. My first ever shroom trip, I took an eighth. Actually, I think it was a little more than that, closer to 4 grams, because that's what my friend told me would make me trip. He was like, yeah, dude, that's a great starter dose. I now today know that 4 grams is an absolute balls-to-the-wall dose, and that's a dose you eat if you really want to lose your fucking marbles, which, granted, can be plenty fun, but not quite what I was going for at the time. So, you know, I've only really recently started to get into and kind of respect shrooms a little more, but either way, I'm sitting there watching the TV, and I notice that the edges of the TV, they just don't quite look straight, you know? It almost looks like the TV is bent a little bit, like it's a little bit of a circle. I'm feeling loose, and for some reason, I kept feeling my nose, and the tip of my nose was super cold, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, bro, why is my fucking nose so cold? The rest of my body was hot, and I'm sitting here at the Airbnb, it's just me and Ashley, right? She had eaten a little bit as well, but not nearly as much as I did. I mean, I was fucking tripping at this point. So I'm sitting, and I was just caught totally off guard. I was like, holy fuck, man. I mean, it's all hitting me at the same time. The come up on shrooms, I feel like is very fast because the overall trip is like half the length of an acid trip, you know, from start to finish. So, I mean, I'm coming up quick, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, holy fuck, because I just wasn't ready for it. I end up getting up and going to the bathroom, and I sit in the bathroom, and I'm like, you know, maybe I'll just take a piss, you know, maybe, you know, rinse my face a little bit with some hot water, make my nose stop feeling so cold, and then I'll chill out. And granted, I may make it, you know, I might be making it sound like I was, you know, having a bad experience or I was nervous, but that's not quite what was happening. I just wasn't ready for this shit, so I'm sitting there like, holy fuck, boys. I didn't know how hard I was about to trip because I had never eaten these chocolate bars before, you know, enough to trip. I mean, I'd had a couple pieces the day prior, and they didn't really do shit for me. So I'm sitting there, and I'm in the bathroom, and I'm looking at the shower curtain, and it's got this pattern on it. Very basic pattern, just like a little, almost like a checkering, like a diagonal checkering, you know, like a bunch of X's across it. It was like blue and white, and I just remember looking at it, and the X's, they almost, like the blue X's almost look like little waves, you know, they were just so slightly. It looked like that shower curtain was just blowing in the wind a little bit, you know, and I'm sitting there just, at this point, I'm literally sat down on the toilet just staring at the shower curtain for like 5 minutes, and I'm like, yo, that's fucking cool, bro. And one thing I really appreciate about shrooms is I feel like it makes me appreciate natural light more, you know, in the sense of like when I'm in a room that's got a window that's like, you know, facing the sun or something, I'm sitting there and I'm like, it's so bright in here, you know. I really do feel like a little shroom sprouting out of the ground, like, oh dude, this sunlight, it's so fantastic. So after I stop staring at the shower curtain, I get my dumb ass up and I get out of the bathroom and go back to the living room. I opt to take a nice fat dab at this point. I figure, you know what? Let's get it. One thing I appreciate about shrooms is that smoking weed while you're tripping on shrooms is just perfect. I find that it's not quite like acid. On acid, sometimes I'll be tripping so hard that I'll avoid smoking. You know, I'll be like, yo, this might send me over the edge, you know, like, yo, I'm tripping balls. I don't want to smoke right now. But shrooms, it feels like, at least to me, you know, whether I've microdosed or I've just full on started tripping, a nice blunt or a nice dab always pairs well. So I take a big fat dab out of my Carta, a absolute chunk of some rosin, and I am on cloud 9 at this point. After I take this dab, I just felt this warmth come over me, almost like too warm, where I started kind of sweating a little bit. So I'm sitting there, and I kept getting up and messing with the air conditioning. I'm like, yo, too cold, gotta make it hotter. 5 minutes later, I get up, yo, too hot, gotta crank it down. Or I'd go up and I'd switch from a hoodie to a t-shirt. I kept almost having these weird, like, it was hard to explain. Like, one moment I'd feel like I was too cold, the next moment I feel like I was too hot. And then I realized after a while that I was just kind of fucking tweaking. And I was like, yo, I need to just sit the fuck down and just get used to the temperature of the room for like 5 minutes. And after I did that and I sat myself the fuck down, I never messed with the thermostat again, dude. It was honestly the most like stupid problem I'd ever developed for myself. It was a little mind game that my shroom brain was kind of playing with itself. But either way, after I kind of sat down and calmed down a little bit, a couple hours had gone by at this point. It's closer to 7 o'clock at this point, and now other people are starting to pull up to the Airbnb. I mean, I'm talking Attila pulled up, Eric pulled up, the Pine Park homies pulled up, the Turp Mansion homies pulled up. We were deep at this point. And as we were chilling out, taking some more dabs, getting ready to go out to dinner, Attila suggested that we ate even more shrooms. And, I was pretty down at this point because I had started to come down a little bit. I was definitely still having a fairly light trip, but it wasn't nearly as tense as when I was sitting in the bathroom staring at the shower curtain. So I was like, yeah, I'm down. I'll eat maybe another piece or two. He busts out the ounce of penis envies, and he's like, yo, what if we eat, a piece of chocolate or two and some penis envy? So we do exactly that. We go over to the freezer, and I grab out the chocolate bars, and I break off some pieces for both of us. Attila ate, I'm pretty sure, like 4 pieces before dinner, and I ate another 2 or 3, so we were ready to rumble. On top of that, we also cut up some little pieces of the penis envy and just straight up ate them raw. Now, I didn't chew on it or anything. My strategy was I took my piece, and I rolled it into the tiniest little ball possible and popped it like a pill. I briefly choked on it, but it went down, so it worked well enough. Now, after we took this dose, we took a couple more dabs, and then we hopped in Eric's car and went off to dinner. Now, it's myself, Ashley, Attila, and Eric. I'm sitting in back with Ashley. Attila's in front, and then Eric's driving, of course, and we've got his dog Kento with us, too, roaming around the car being a menace. Now, I don't know how far it was into this car ride when the redose hit, but we had a bit of a drive from our Airbnb to the restaurant. I would say it was, I don't know, maybe a solid like 40 minutes, 30 at least. I mean, this was a fucking mission, dude. So we're sitting in the car and we're cruising down the highway. It's late. It's like 8 o'clock at this point, getting close to our reservation time. The vibes, the views are so on point. And, one thing I love about Cali is everything is so scenic. I mean, you've got the mountains, you've got all the lights of being in LA, it's just really fucking sick. It's the perfect place to trip balls. So we're riding down the highway, and it just fucking hits me. The colors out the window, they're just all kind of moving so quickly, and they're so bright, and they're so they're just so like encapsulating to me. I can't stop staring at all the headlights and all the signs passing by. And I never once, for the rest of the car ride, after I started tripping, stopped looking out the window. I was just glued. I was like a dog, dude. I went like feral for a little bit. I was just staring out the window. Eventually, we pulled up to this restaurant, and this was quite possibly the biggest mindfuck of all. I mean, this restaurant, I don't think I could have picked a worse venue to trip at. And not because the food was bad. No, it was awesome. The drinks were dope. And any other circumstance, I would love to go to this place. But on Shrooms, this was the single most confusing environment ever. We get out of Eric's car, and that's when I really realized how hard I was tripping, because nothing was still. I got out of the car and everything just looked like a big fucking blob of jello, dude. Everything was just wobbly. All the cars looked like I could just go and pull a piece out of them, I mean, nothing was sitting still. And we're walking up to this restaurant, and we get inside, and this is not a typical restaurant where, it's like you got a hostess and you got your tables. This shit is in a warehouse, right? But it's not only a restaurant. I shit you probably won't believe me. If you don't believe that this is really what this place is like, go look up Bike Shed Los Angeles. Bike Shed, let me look it up. Let me make sure. Bike Shed Moto Co. Bike Shed Moto Co. Los Angeles. Go look this shit up and look at the pictures of the inside if you're really curious, okay? Chances are I probably forgot to put the picture on screen earlier, knowing me. So either way, go look it up. But we get in this place and oh my fucking God, dude. It is a bar and a restaurant and a motorcycle like display room and a fucking barber shop all in one. Like, it's just the most mindfuckery thing. It's not like they're separate, right? The barber shop is just, like, in the fucking middle of the restaurant, dude. The motorcycle display hall area is, like, when you go to the bathroom, you just look down the hall, and there's just this giant white room with motorcycles. When I went to the bathroom, I thought God was calling me to come home to the pearly gates. So I looked over, and there's just a shining white light with, like, 6 motorcycles in there. I'm like, yo, is this Jesus, dude, calling me home? Like, what the fuck? So we walk into this restaurant, and I am so overwhelmed at this point. I mean, sensory overload. And we get to the table and sit down, and myself and Attila, we're at opposite ends of the table, and I'm sitting there, and I'm just looking around this restaurant, trying to absorb my scenery, trying to understand where the fuck I am, and my brain is just not processing any of this shit, dude. I'm so confused because the decor in here, if I'm being blunt, it's just fucking nonsense, bro. Like, nothing makes sense. It's like, where am I, dude? Am I in a restaurant or a warehouse? Am I at a barbershop or am I at a motorcycle hall? Like, where the fuck am I, dude? It is absolutely insane. And they have, like, a store. They have, like, a merch store in there, too. I mean, it's fucking ludicrous, dude. So I'm sitting there, and the whole time at dinner, I mean, everyone's ordering food and drinks and shit, and yeah, I'm placing my orders too, but I said maybe a total of like 10 sentences at dinner because I was so taken aback by the environment, and every now and then, Attila would look over at me and be like, yo, are you fucking tripping? And I'd be like, yeah, I'm fucking tripping balls. We just start laughing, dude. It was the most wild shit. So eventually, I got up to go to the bathroom. I kind of had to wander the halls a little bit because this place is massive, dude. I mean, I don't think I could I almost beg you to go look up this restaurant, honestly, because I don't think my description can do it justice. This place is a clusterfuck. But eventually, I find my way to the bathroom, and I get in there, and it is luckily fairly chill in the bathroom, you know? The stalls are like completely separate little rooms, right? So it's not like there's like a gap under the door where someone could throw a fucking frag grenade under at your ankles, you know? I mean, completely separate rooms. So I get in the bathroom, and I sit down, and I'm like, okay, finally, no more sensory overload. And I take a couple minutes just to kind of collect myself. I'm like, dude, I'm tripping so fucking hard. I would say that this is the hardest I've ever tripped on shrooms, but it's definitely not. But it's up there. Probably top 5 as of the time of recording this. I have a feeling that I'll probably trip much harder in the future. But as someone who has no tolerance and as someone who doesn't take very big doses, this was a big, big trip for me. So I'm sitting in the bathroom, and I'm like, holy fuck, bro. I am finally able to chill out. A couple minutes go by, and I go out of the stall, and I'm washing my hands, and Attila comes in. And we just start laughing immediately upon seeing each other. And I'm like, dude, the first thing I say to him, I'm like, bro, are you tripping this hard too? And he's like, yeah, I'm fucking tripping balls right now, dude. I was not ready for this. So we kind of laugh about it in the bathroom a little bit. And we walk out, and that's when I see the gates to heaven, the shining light at the end of the tunnel. Quite literally, this is a hallway where every surface is black, right? So like the walls are black, the floor is black, the ceiling is black. And then at the end of the hallway is just this white room, all white with a bunch of motorcycles in it. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, yo, are the Hell's Angels like recruiting me? Like, are they sending me to heaven? Like, is this it? Did I just fucking die and go to biker heaven? Like, what is this, you know? So I'm looking down there, and I say to Attila, I'm like, what the fuck is that, bro? And he's like, I don't fucking know, man. Let's just go back to the table. So we go back to the table, and I sit down, and I'm right back in the mix, dude. Sensory overload once again. I'm looking around. I'm having a blast. Don't get me wrong. The vibes are on, but it's just so much to look at that I felt like every 2 minutes I was just staring at a different thing. Eventually, I'd kind of come down a bit towards the end of the dinner because we were there for a while. We were a very big party, so it took us a while to decide what we wanted and then get our food as well, Server was very friendly, of course. Everything was great. Hey, honestly, I recommend this place if you're in the LA area. It was pretty dope. I mean, maybe not if you're tripping balls, but I mean, if you're just like faded or like want to get drunk, this place is cool. But either way, finally, towards the end of the dinner, I kind of chilled out a little bit, and we get our check, and we hop back in Eric's car. And at this point, I'm definitely on the come down. I mean, I think that the chocolates I'd eaten before dinner were just my little parachute dose before the real come down began, because as I came out of the restaurant, I was just like, oh my fucking God, the cars finally aren't moving, And me and Attila were just laughing about it. I mean, this was a wonderful, wonderful trip. And honestly, it had gone on for so long because of that redose that I was sitting there like, damn, when is this going to fucking slow down? And it finally did. So we got back to the Airbnb maybe 30 to 45 minutes later, and what do you know? I ate a couple more chocolates. But either way, that's the story of my most recent accidental shroom trip. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Drop a like if you did. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And also follow my Instagram at TheGBLN. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out, gamers.